Well, here it is, folks. The first Super Tournament of the year, 2015, the 77th Tata Steel Chess Tournament. Great action, great tournament, great world-class players. Don't miss any of the action. Hi, folks. John Cordisco back again. Another great game from round 4, one of my favorite tournaments. This is the 77th edition of the Tata Steel Chess. This is the Masters section, round 4, between someone that needs no introduction in the chess world, Vachier Ivanchuk, probably one of the most brilliant players that ever lived, as white, and Maixime Vachier Lagrave, number 1 in France, as black. Vachier's on a tear. So far, before this game, he has 2.5 out of 3. He's just smashing his opponents. Let's get on with it. It's going to be a Sicilian Najdorf, pawn, bishop, knight, bishop comes back, knight, bishop, knight, bishop g5, didn't want the repeat. I've been playing d4 a lot lately in my tournament games. Maybe I should go back to e4. I'm just going to have to put up with the Sicilians I got to put up with. That's the way it is. h6, bishop, g5. Now that tells me a couple of things. Usually you'll see, especially in the Najdorf, that white's going to castle long on the queen side. And with that pawn push there, that tells you maybe, if he castles at all, black might try it on the queen side as well. But it looks like he might not castle at all. We'll see how this works out. Bishop kicks the knight. Knight comes back. Bishop e2, I have no doubt these guys are still in theory. Knight comes up, development move. Knight b3, typical in the Sicilian. b5, a4. And that is also the computer's move. Close second for white is castle short. b4, knight goes to d5. Pretty good spot for that knight. I doubt if black would want to push. We'll see if he does. And he does. So that means he's going to fee and kettle this bishop here, because this pawn is blocking the bishop. Now it looks like he's not going to castle at all. Knight to e3. That's a pretty good spot for that, actually. It's not blocking any bishops in. It's controlling some really key squares. Here, 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 and here. Bishop finishes his development of all those minor pieces. Queen to d2. Got the Fritz 13 computer on off screen. It's got about a third of a pawn advantage. Pretty typical stuff. Now, for whatever reason, I think it's just maybe his choice of openings, Ivanchuk always seems to have the most interesting positions. I remember a game that he played and beat Magnus Carlsen in the candidates final to determine the first time Magnus won the world championship, and Vasily beat him in a really complicated rook, knight, and pawn ending. Queen to c7. He's just finishing his development. Castle's long, castle's long. It's like I thought, okay, he's going to castle long. His pawns are all moved forward, but his king looks pretty safe, black's king. Let's see how this works out. Queen's right here on the open file, and this bishop coming down might be something. Give you an idea that before castle, the computer like rook to d8 first. Not a real close second, but close enough as castling long. And that's what Lagrave decided. King to b1, I call that a grandmaster's move. He probably just wants to get out of the c file. King to b8 does the same thing. f3. Wants to reinforce his pawn. a5, he's just cementing that. Now, you're going to see a post-mortem with Ivanchuk at the end here after this video, so stay tuned for that. And he really didn't care for that move much. Bishop f6, computer legs, king c8. Move the king back, no human would ever do that. Or go king to a7. It just won't happen. So he goes a5, h4 for Ivanchuk. Knight comes to a7. Don't know why he's trying to do that. I guess he wants to open up the bishop. That's on b7. Knight d4. Knight g6. Knight comes back. Tell you the truth, I wouldn't worry too much about the king side. I might have played knight here. Computer calls for bishop f6 again. I think he's worried about takes, and then the bishop on f6 would take. What to do? What to do? It looks like Ivanchuk's pieces are going to start flooding into the queen side. Bishop c6 again. Or I should say the light squared bishop hitting the a-pawn. Or the computer likes bishop f6, knight c8. He goes knight g6. And now the points are starting to accumulate up a little bit for white. It's close to a 2-point advantage now for white. You can't, you know, it's funny. These guys can tell many moves ahead when the attack's going to start. But unfortunately, us mere mortals can't do that. He plays h takes, rook takes. Now, bishop takes is the computer calls for. That's by far the best move. Rook takes, not a good idea at all. After rook takes, knight takes e6. And all hell is going to break loose. What happens is, say rook took, knight takes. If pawn takes, the bishop takes, pinning the queen. So it has to take with a bishop. Bishop c4. This is the first time really that I think the computer's been somewhat critical of Ivanchuk. Computer likes knight to c4 much better. Then after b takes, queen takes, knight f4. About a 1.5 advantage for white. But bishop c4. And unfortunately, MVL as they call it, Maixime Vachier, picks knight f4. Computer likes bishop e5. I kind of do too. Just to get rid of that bishop. Or at least get him off of that diagonal. I know he was starting to get close on time around move 26. Black was short on time. Bishop b3 moves him right out of the way. Queen to c5, trying to throw up some kind of counterplay here. Knight c4, here it comes. Here come the pieces. You got both knights bearing down. This queen's going to get in the action soon. This bishop's going to get in. It's SOL, I think, for black. And here is where Maixime Vachier blunders. d5 was the choice of the computer. Just to open things up a little bit, give him some breathing room. But he goes bishop a6. And the points jump. About 3-point advantage now for white. This game is resignable. It says on the computer, black has lost his nerve. Understandable when you consider his options. Queen to c7 was probably his best choice. Then after knight, knight takes, a4. Just doomed. I mean, look how white's king position is just, black's king position is just busted. After bishop a6, just a nice little subtle move. Bishop here. Doing a lot of things. Not only is it going to go after the queen, but it's bearing right down on the black king. Bishop takes. Now, normally, what would I do here? What's the right move? Knight b5. And next where Maixime Vachier, number 1 in France, resigns. Give you an idea of the rest of the game would have went if he hadn't resigned. Queen to c6. Bishop takes a7, check. King a8. Bishop takes. Queen takes. Bishop b6. And he's doomed. Absolutely doomed. So, Ivanchuk's on a hell of a tear. 3.5 out of 4. This is round 4. This is the Vasily of old. Like I've always said about Ivanchuk, either he is dead on brilliant or he just sucks. And this tournament, he's dead on brilliant. So 3.5 out of 4. Great result for Ivanchuk. I like to see some of the older guys, some of the old warriors like Ivanchuk make out. Anyway, folks, that's the video, the other video from round 4. I hope you enjoyed it. I want you all to remember, if you think chess is just a game,